People often imagine that climbing out of a dark place begins with one big breakthrough. But for most people, it begins with something much smaller. Getting out of bed. Taking one walk. Deleting one app. Answering one message. Or finally admitting that doing everything alone is no longer working. The people who slowly rebuilt their lives did not all follow the same path. But many of them mentioned the same kinds of actions. Here are 8 things that actually helped people begin moving again. The first was making the next step almost too small to fail. When life feels overwhelming, ordinary tasks can start to feel enormous. Taking a shower feels like a project. Cleaning the room feels impossible. Replying to one email feels like dealing with your entire future. This is why large plans often fail during difficult periods. They require energy you may not have yet. Instead of trying to fix your life, choose the smallest useful action available. Sit up in bed. Put both feet on the floor. Drink a glass of water. Open the curtains. Place one piece of clothing in the laundry basket. The goal is not to feel proud of how much you accomplished. The goal is to interrupt complete stillness. A very small action creates evidence that movement is still possible. And once you move once, moving again becomes slightly easier. The second thing was dealing with today instead of trying to solve an entire life. When you are in a dark place, the future can feel like one enormous problem. You think about your career, money, health, relationships, missed opportunities, and everything that may go wrong. Your mind combines all of it into one impossible task. But today usually contains only a few real problems. You may need to eat. You may need to answer one important message. You may need to attend one appointment. You may need to sleep. Ask yourself, what is today's problem? Not next year's problem. Not the person I should have become by now. Just today. Sometimes helping your future self means doing one small thing before the day ends. Preparing breakfast. Charging your phone. Writing down tomorrow's first task. A life is not rebuilt all at once. It is rebuilt through days that become slightly more manageable. The third thing was removing whatever kept pulling them deeper. Sometimes recovery is not about immediately adding more habits. It begins by reducing exposure to what makes the situation worse. For some people, that meant deleting social media for a while. Watching carefully edited versions of other people's lives made them feel further behind. For others, it meant leaving online spaces that constantly repeated hopeless thoughts. It meant reducing contact with people who made every conversation heavier. Or noticing how often they used alcohol, endless scrolling, or other distractions to avoid feeling anything. You do not need to remove every comfort from your life. But pay attention to what gives temporary relief and leaves you feeling worse afterward. Not everything you reach for is helping you recover. Some things only make the hours disappear. Creating distance from one harmful pattern can give your mind enough quiet to notice what it actually needs. The fourth thing was moving before they felt motivated. A common mistake is waiting until you feel better before doing anything. But motivation often appears after movement, not before it. This does not mean forcing yourself through an intense workout. It can mean walking to the end of the street, standing outside for 5 minutes, opening a window, stretching beside the bed, taking a shower and changing clothes. The action may feel too ordinary to matter, but difficult periods often disconnect you from your body and your surroundings. Movement brings you back into contact with both. You notice the temperature. You feel your feet on the ground. You see that the world is still moving. The walk does not solve your life, but it can change the next 20 minutes. And sometimes 20 more manageable minutes are enough to begin. The fifth thing was building a routine that could carry them when motivation disappeared. When every day is unstructured, every basic action requires a new decision. When should I get up? Should I eat? Should I go outside? Should I work now or later? That constant decision-making becomes exhausting. A simple routine reduces the number of negotiations you have with yourself. Wake up at roughly the same time. Eat something in the morning. Go outside at a predictable hour. Choose one period for work and one period for rest. Prepare for bed in the same order. The routine does not need to be impressive. It only needs to be repeatable. On a good day, you may do more. On a bad day, the routine gives you a basic structure to fall back on. You do not have to decide how to rebuild your whole life. You only need to follow the next familiar step. The sixth thing was stopping the habit of disappearing from everyone who cared. When people feel ashamed, exhausted, or lost, they often isolate themselves. They avoid messages because they do not know what to say. Then they avoid them longer because too much time has passed. Soon, asking for support feels more difficult than the original problem. You do not need to explain everything perfectly. You can send one honest sentence. I have been having a difficult time. I do not know what I need, but I do not want to be alone today. Can we take a short walk? Sometimes support is not advice. It is someone sitting beside you. Bringing food. Helping with a practical task. Listening without turning your pain into a lesson. The people who care about you may not know how to help until you allow them to see that help is needed. Letting someone in does not make you weak. It gives you another place to stand while your own strength returns. The seventh thing was finding something that needed them to show up. When life feels empty, personal goals may not feel strong enough. You may not care about improving yourself, but you may still care about feeding a pet, watering a plant, helping a family member, finishing a small responsibility at work, showing up for a volunteer shift, creating something another person is waiting to see. Responsibility can become a quiet bridge back into life. Not the kind of responsibility that crushes you. The kind that gives tomorrow a shape. Something small that says your presence still matters. Meaning does not always arrive as a grand purpose. Sometimes it begins with being needed in one ordinary place. You show up because something depends on you. Then, over time, you begin showing up for yourself too. The eighth thing was using more than one kind of help. Some people improved through changing their environment. Some needed better routines. Some needed honest conversations. Some found therapy useful. Some spoke with a doctor. Some joined a support group. Some needed several of these at the same time. There is no prize for rebuilding your life. Using the fewest tools. Trying to do everything alone can become another way of staying stuck. Receiving help does not mean someone else will do the work for you. It means you do not have to invent every step by yourself. The right support can help you see patterns you cannot see from inside the problem. It can provide structure when your thoughts feel chaotic. And it can remind you that your current state is not your entire identity. Climbing out of a dark place rarely looks dramatic while it is happening. It looks like drinking water when you do not care. Walking for 10 minutes when you would rather stay in bed. Replying to someone after days of silence. Doing the same simple routine again tomorrow. None of these actions appears powerful on its own. But repeated small actions create direction. And direction matters before confidence returns. You do not need to believe that everything will become perfect. You only need to believe that the next step may be worth taking. Make it small. Keep it close. Let today be enough. Remove one thing that keeps pulling you down. Move before motivation appears. Create a routine that can carry you. Let someone care about you. Find one reason to show up. Use the help that is available. You may not feel like a different person tomorrow, but you may feel 1% less trapped. And sometimes that is how the way out begins. Not with a sudden transformation, but with one small action that proves you have not stopped moving. This is human in progress. Not perfect. Just getting better, one step at a time.